Entering the Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, continuing our coverage of the 2018 fantasy football season. All my rankings, all my tiers, all my shows in the description under the PME Draft Kit, full Draft Kit link. You find everything for free on demand up there. Give the episode a like to make sure to keep everything free. Joining me to talk about all the news, all the notes, everything that you need, plus updating my rankings a little bit. They'll be updated Thursday on DKPlaybook.com. All of them, the top 200, running back, quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, the whole shebang. It's Jake Ciely, fantasy free agent, but the most accurate ranker in the business. So I got to talk to him. What's up, Jake?
Oh, what's going on? There's likely little earrings here for me. There's what that looks like.
I don't know. Let me see. Yeah, it does. Yeah, you got the Mike Leone look on the go.
The Mike Leone one. I have better hair than Mike Leone.
That you do. I mean, you look better with your you look like Shawn Michaels with your dangly earrings.
Hey, I got the white belt. Oh, you can't see it. I'm off. It's off camera.
There you go.
Yeah, the white Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah, I don't like the white belt. Not gonna lie to you, I never liked that growing up. I love the old in like the early '90s Intercontinental title, like just the shape of it. Always was a big fan of that. Didn't like the really thin one that they brought in like the early 2000s. So I guess if I can go with the white one, but like the old school look of it, I think I'm fine with that.
I think Shawn Michaels is the only one that could pull off the white belt. That's really what it was.
It's true. It did match his pants, so that really are his leotards. So maybe that's the way to go. Dangly earrings and all. What I do want to let people know is I have some winners of the giveaways I ran throughout July. So if you hear your name, you have won 20 DK dollars. Take a few days to show up. Could be in there right now. I don't know how their schedule works, but it's $20 to play on DraftKings. Should be credited immediately to your account. So just check it. If it's not there in a week, let me know. The winners of the giveaways are A. Mormon, Froghammer, Snowman 0809, XX Claymore 95, Nathan 8766, and Jason Blum. The 6 winners, 20 DK bucks into your account. The one for this show, if you want to get into a draw to win 20 DK dollars, here's what you do. Give the episode a like. That's step 1. Number 2, leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section along with the player inside the top, let's say, 40 in terms of ADP you think is going to be the biggest bust of the fantasy football season. So that's all you need to do. Plus, there's a separate one. If you use the hashtag DKPME NFL in the iTunes reviews, if you just leave your DK handle in there with a nice review for the show, preferably 5 stars, there is a separate draw for that. So enter both times. Boom. Increase your chances of winning. So there you go. Those are 2 ways to get some DK bucks. Let's get into the news. First up, we missed it on Monday, so we'll get to it now. Corey Coleman traded to the Bills from the Browns. He joined Zay Jones, who has returned to practice after a knee injury had kept him out all of training camp. Plus, you have Kelvin Benjamin. Plus, you have a slew of new quarterbacks. And then you have Charles Clay still murking the waters around. Are any of these guys draftable?
Well, Kelvin Benjamin, I still think is because the targets are going to.
Kelvin Benjamin reeks. Let's just. He's in worse place. If you check my rankings, he's in worse place.
Oh, he's now there too. So he's there with what? Jared Cook, Mark Ingram, and who else?
Jordy Nelson.
Okay.
And someone else who I forget now. Doug Martin.
Okay. That's a pretty decent list there. But look, the thing with Kelvin Benjamin is I know they're bringing in Corey Coleman. He's still going to get 140 targets. Half of them are probably only going to be catchable between those 3 quarterbacks, but he's going to get them. Obviously, I want him in non-PPR, so like my 4th or 5th wide receiver. PPR is going to take a hit, but he's not the worst. He's going to be on your bench anyway, so I don't have a problem with Kelvin Benjamin. But the thing with Corey Coleman is he's got to get past Zay Jones because Zay Jones is back on the field. Not to say that's a difficult task because Zay Jones hasn't shown anything, but neither has Corey Coleman. And Corey Coleman's been injuries. Well, Zay Jones has been banged up a little bit, and he banged up his foot running down the hallway naked or whatever happened with that situation. So I don't really think we're going to get a real clear picture of Coleman or Zay Jones this year. And if it's not a clear picture, I don't want either one of them. Now, if one of them pushes the other one aside completely and they are the starting number 2 and getting 60, 70% of the snaps every single week, maybe we can talk about a deep bench option. But as of right now, I'm not worried about either.
Yeah, even for something like, I would monitor these guys and what their target share is, their snap share, and just see how their DraftKings prices trend the first few weeks. For a season-long format, I just have no interest in any of them. I'm updating my top 200 rankings. I'm like, do I put Corey Coleman inside my top 200? I'm looking at the receivers, like near the very bottom of that list. It's like Torrey Smith and Calvin Ridley and Andre Holmes and Chris Godwin,
Andre Holmes.
Andre Holmes probably get off the list, but either way,
he's my bust.
I guess he's in that mix, so maybe he could be ranked like 187, but you don't want Corey Coleman.
I'm actually looking right now. I got Corey Coleman right behind Curtis Samuel, Tavon Austin, Trent Taylor, right there in that range.
All right, so on the other end of the spectrum with the Browns, this alleviates one of the wide receiver positions. Josh Gordon has not been placed on any sort of list. He will return to football. Of course, Hard Knocks has elevated Jarvis Landry's stock. I'm not budging on Jarvis Landry because I do think Josh Gordon's going to play, and he'll end up being the more viable target and the one who ends up being the better fantasy option. I'm just not buying there's enough wealth to go around in this offense to make everyone a superstar. So I'm going to temper expectations on Jarvis Landry a little bit, but what does this do? The absence of Coleman frees up targets for who? Is it Rashard Higgins? Because it's definitely not going to be Antonio Galloway. Or Calloway. I mean, I'm as stoned as he is right now. He's using the same. He used the exact same excuse that I used on my mother in the 11th grade when she found weed in my car. I was like, Derek left it. It's not mine. A friend left it in the car. I wouldn't be driving around. I wouldn't have weed in my car. That would be insane. He's a grown man. He's using this stuff. It's not going to fly in the NFL.
My buddy asked me to hold that for him at school. That's the excuse that kids give, with the cigarettes too. So yeah, look, the NFL is going to do something here. This isn't necessarily that big of a surprise. The Browns are going to Browns when it comes to talent. They had picks to throw away, but they just threw one away right here with Calloway. You got to hope for him. The kid, I said, was a top 3 wide receiver talent, but this is the risk that you run with that, with all the off-the-field issues. And I don't think he's going to get the benefit of the doubt because of the off-the-field issues, despite where his car was. And like you said, we've heard this excuse before when you were 12 years old. So I'm looking at this situation here and I'm saying, you know what? It could be Rashard Higgins' time, just like it was last year, where he was a person that people were talking about picking up when they had issues last year. But the same thing, didn't really do anything last year. And I don't really want the third wide receiver, even if it was Calloway, who I like the talent. Who wants the third wide receiver on an offense if Josh Gordon is playing with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback, who's not even going to throw 500 times in the season? If it switches to Baker Mayfield, maybe a little bit. Maybe you can get a little bit excited if Higgins is definitively the number 3. But the pecking order is going Gordon, Landry, probably Njoku, or actually Duke Johnson and Njoku, or the backfield. Actually, just call the backfield wide receiver 3, and then you have the tight end or the real wide receiver 3, and I don't want anything to do with that.
News has come out of Cleveland that Carlos Hyde is still atop the depth chart for right now. We'll talk about depth charts in just a little bit and how they're probably fake news. But in terms of Jarvis Landry, I have him ranked number 57 overall in my PPR rankings. You can find the entire list in the description. You can find it up on DKPlaybook.com. So let me ask you, in a head-to-head situation, would you take Jarvis Landry or Jamison Crowder?
Jarvis Landry.
I have Jamison Crowder ranked 1 above. I like the upside and potential for that just a little bit more for me this season. I'm very anti-Browns, as a lot of people are, see them as an ascending team. And I think this is a defense that can be pretty good too. And we talk about Taylor's overall volume, that it's just not going to be there. If the defense is actually good, we could be looking at a situation like we saw in Jacksonville last year, where not only does Taylor not throw the ball to begin with, he might have to throw the ball less now because the defense isn't going to have them down by 24 points every game.
It's possible, but at the same time, when it comes down to it, is Jarvis Landry. I've said this the entire offseason, so I'm not disagreeing with you that much with Landry. I've said he's a 1-to-1-to-1. He's how many targets, how many receptions, the fantasy production. And I went back and wrote an article about it. The fact is, if you look at non-PPR and PPR, it's a flat level across the 4 seasons of points per target. Either format, it's 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 in non-PPR, and it's 1.6, 1.7 in PPR. So if the targets even drop back 20 to 30 from last season, you can just do the math. It's that simple when it comes to Landry. So that's where I'm with you. But at the same time, even if you do that, we're talking about somebody in PPR who is a wide receiver 1. You move him down to low-end wide receiver 2. I'm still going to take that over Crowder, who I like a lot and I think is being devalued right now. But I'm also in on Josh Doxson, who I think that if you look at the second half of last year, and I know it's a different quarterback, but all those red zone targets, he was top 10 in the league. I think that Doxson is going to be a nice compliment. Reed is healthy as of now. So I just don't know that Crowder's going to get the same volume as Landry.
See, that's where I disagree. I think that if we look at the situation in Washington with Alex Smith, the routes that he likes to throw, I feel like that really does benefit Jamison Crowder a lot. And both these guys are very similar in ways that we're looking at them. They're both volume players. The volume needs to be there. And in the Washington offense versus the Cleveland offense, I think that Crowder could end up with more targets.
See, and I guess that's where we differ. I still think even with the decrease, Landry is the number one when it comes down to targets. I think that if you look at last year as well, and not, again, a different team, but Landry was in the slot about 60, what did you say? I think you were the one that brought it up, about 63% of the time. So he plays outside enough where it's not just, he's only going to get that kind of volume and that he can't be productive on a per target basis in yards and stuff like that. The touchdowns are the one thing that we know are the question with him, but I think it's very similar with Crowder too. Like Crowder, what does he top out at 4, 5 for his career? So he's kind of on that Landry path. I don't have a problem with liking Crowder a lot, and I do, and I feel like I like him more than most people, but I definitely, obviously don't like him more than you do because I'm still going Landry.
Well, the whole thing is, in terms of Jamison Crowder versus Jarvis Landry, I'm talking about this just from a head-to-head battle, and yeah, I would prefer Jamison Crowder. He's also going like 3 rounds after Jarvis Landry, or more.
Right, and that's where I 100% agree with you. Is I have Jarvis Landry on one team, and he actually ended up as my third wide receiver because for some reason he slipped. I guess there was a lot of people that kind of feel this way in that draft, and I got him in the 5th round. And then Crowder is the one that I've been getting because I'm just waiting another 2 or 3 rounds on average and taking Crowder every single time. So for that part of the argument, no question, I'll wait on Crowder every single time.
Josh Gordon, I have ranked at number 38 overall. That's behind other wide receivers like Juju, Larry Fitz, Demaryius Thomas, Amari Cooper, Marvin Jones, Chris Hogan. Is that too low, too high? Like, what should I be doing with Josh Gordon?
No, look, that's the problem with Josh Gordon right now. Like, if you take the gamble on Gordon, you're hoping he plays 16 games. I mean, is he playing week 1? Is he going to need to step away from football from week 6 through 8? It's a giant question mark. If he plays 16 games with Tyrod Taylor, I don't care if it's Tyrod for 16 games as well. Tyrod Taylor actually had a deeper ADOT than Jay Cutler last year for everybody thinking that he's not an aggressive passer. He actually can be a very aggressive passer. But all that being said, if he plays for 16, Taylor plays for 16, obviously Baker Mayfield would excite us a little bit more. He's going to be top 15 wide receiver on talent alone. The problem is like right now where I have him is between Alshon Jeffrey and Larry Fitzgerald, a non-PPR, ahead of Brandon Cooks and Marvin Jones, behind Demaryius Thomas and Doug Baldwin. That's hoping he plays 14, 15 games. Maybe you factor in 1 missed game for injury. If he doesn't, if he plays half the season, now we're talking about he's down by Jordan Nelson that you actually have in worst place. But it's just really how you factor in your team. If you can get him as your 3rd wide receiver and you build a nice 4th wide receiver behind him, then I would do it. But you have to know what you're getting involved in.
Any interest in the rumors that Dez Bryant might end up in Cleveland because of all of this? I don't know if I necessarily buy that in terms of Dez. Like, do you think that he ends up playing this year because he's not on a team as of yet, as we're talking right now, and like where is a fit for him?
I do think he plays this year. There's actually a lot of fits that I think make sense right now, but obviously the teams that you would think make sense don't have any interest. I don't know if this is a similar situation to what we're seeing with like Rashad Breeland at corner, and that he's asking way too much, and I think that's part of the problem. I don't know what it is, but Dez Bryant, I think this whole Browns thing is him and his agent trying to drum up interest and say that, hey, look, there's another team, maybe one of these teams that are having a question mark at number 2 should give you a little bit more aggressive. I mean, obviously the Colts make a ton of sense, but now we hear all these reports of how good Ryan Grant looks, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that. And there's other teams. I look at the situation with Doug Baldwin. Do we really think Brandon Marshall has anything left? I know that Dez Bryant's kind of almost a replication of what Brandon Marshall brings, but at least he's better than what Brandon Marshall is right now. He's kind of Brandon Marshall from 3 or 4 years ago. So there are teams out there. I just think it's going to take a significant injury in about the next week or 2, which will happen somewhere. These things always happen in the preseason for him to actually finally latch on. I do think he plays. I don't know where at this point.
Let's move to New England. Sony Michel is going to miss all of the preseason with a knee problem. This was something that was actually identified by Mike Lombardi very early around the draft, and hey, now it's happened. So Rex Burkhead, the absolute steal of the century, week 1 on DraftKings at 4,300. So we'll watch how that just turns out very poorly. I kind of hate this. by the way, because I love Rex Burkhead this year. And I love Rex Burkhead, especially when Sony Michel was definitely healthy and people weren't like, oh, Rex Burkhead, hey, he was second in yards per route run, only behind Alvin Kamara in terms of all running backs. And like, no one was really talking him up. He was going to like the back end of the 6th round, 7th round. He was getting a bit of buzz, but not a ton. Now he's going to go probably where he should have been drafted in the first place, at least in my opinion, amongst like around the top 20 running backs. Like, what do you see as value for Michel and where do you see as value for Burkhead now?
Honestly, what it comes down to is when is Michel going to be healthy? If it is week 1, it's honestly, it's the Patriots all over again, because where I was with you, I was getting Rex Burkhead and I liked Rex Burkhead at the price that he was at. Where he's going now, I don't want to pay it because now I'm getting involved at the Patriots backfield, buying at basically not quite peak value, but very close to it. Where if this is the Patriots being the Patriots is the Patriots, then Rex Burkhead going inside the top 25, 30 even running backs is now a lot of risk involved because 1 week it'll be Michel, 1 week it'll be Burkhead. I think, honestly, right now the best value is James White in PPR. People are not even wanting to draft him at all. And if Michel misses time, Rex Burkhead can't do all of it, and James White's going to be the PPR pass-catching darling that he always is. So I've actually started scooping up some James White there because that's the value right now. So I'm always going to take, if anything, the cheapest person. The Michel thing, another person that said it was Emery Hunt, where I was doing a draft special with him. He said he plants and runs way too heavy-footed, and he could see knee issues coming. So he was another one that said this is going to be a problem. So I'm with you, Rex Burkhead, but if you're going to pay that price inside the top 25, 30 running backs, I'm probably going to not own as much as I was 2 weeks ago.
I'm still okay with it. I can get it. Let's say you can still get him in like the back end of the 4th round, early 5th round. I'm still fine with that for PPR purposes for Rex Burkhead. I think that he's going to be a very viable running back too this season, and some with one upside. Because like, here's a comparison. It's not in the range of outcomes as a high probability, but the role that everyone is projecting onto Jerick McKinnon in San Francisco, like this workhorse role, is there just a chance that he just has the same role as Burkhead has in New England?
That's the role he's going to have. There's just no workhorse role coming from McKinnon. If so, they're going to get him killed, just like everything that always happens with these running backs in the past. McKinnon also very productive in that 14, 18 touch range. You give him more than that, and it goes down. And the biggest testament to that is just go back to last year. He goes off for a very good game. The team goes right back. The Vikings the next week gives him the same amount of touches. Has another great game, same amount of touches, actually even less because they started losing. Latavius Murray comes back, same amount of touches. He goes off against the Bears, same amount of touches, even less. They never wanted to give him more because they know he's not built for it. That's not slighting McKinnon. McKinnon can be a great RB2, but he's not going to be a workhorse, just like Lamar Miller. Lamar Miller, we went through this with the Dolphins, when Lamar Miller was there. Everybody in the fantasy community, give him more banging the table, give him more touches. And then what does he do? He gets more touches and becomes less efficient, putting up almost the same exact numbers just on more touches. That's what's going to happen if they do the same thing with McKinnon. So for that comparison, where McKinnon's going in the 2nd round and maybe at the 3rd turn at worst, I'm going to go ahead and wait on Burkhead. All that being said is I think that the 4th round is still too pricey for me on Burkhead as well.
Yeah, it does look like Mike Gillislee is going to win the final running back slot in New England.
Over Jeremy Hill?
Over Jeremy Hill. Would Gillislee be viable to you whatsoever?
No, I don't want anything to do with it. No, the 4th running back on the Patriots. I don't want anything to do with the Patriots to begin with, let alone the 4th running back on the.
But the whole thing is the 4th running back on the Patriots could end up being the 1st running back on the Patriots.
It could be, but again, are you going to try and predict? The only thing that you're hoping for Gillislee is that one anomaly season where the Garrett Blount ran for 18 touchdowns. That's what we're hoping for.
All right, so in the receiving game, there's been talk about Cordero Patterson. Eric Decker got signed. The most Anderhurst player of the century, Philip Dorsett, is out there now. He's getting talked up. No more.
That was a fun week.
No more Malcolm Mitchell. No more Jordan Matthews. For me, it's Hogan. It's Gronk. It's Burkhead. Edelman, if you can get him later for when he comes back, although he doesn't have his sea legs underneath of him yet. Like, do you have interest in any of these periphery Patriots?
Not really, because you just mentioned it. Those are the 4. When Edelman's back, those are the 4. And after that, again, I'm going back to whether it's Sony Michel's healthy or James White or something. One of the running backs is more likely to be the consistent, I'd say, number 5 in the passing game over whoever ends up being the wide receiver. That's what the Patriots are. How many years of this do we have to watch and see? Yes, some game is going to have a big one. Somebody's going to have 8 catches for 90-something yards and a touchdown here or there. But there's going to be zero consistency. The Patriots don't even usually use these guys consistently themselves. So I don't really want, like I said, the Dorsett thing was fun for a week. And Eric Decker is intriguing because the Patriots somehow, I don't know, the Lazarus pit for these guys, and he can come back and have some value. But Eric Decker looked beyond. I think they only did this to have the two sexiest men in all of football on the same team.
Brandon LaFell cut by the Bengals. John Ross is going to step into that wide receiver 2 role. I initially had him ranked 198 overall, just as a flyer. I'm going to have to move him up. He needs to have a better season than he had last year, to say the least, in terms of health and productivity on the field when he was there. I mean, he lost a fumble, then got benched, and that's basically all John Ross did in 2017. As a number 2 receiver, do you think he can garner any sort of market share with the Bengals? And where should I move? Like, what's the range for him, the proper range at receiver?
Yeah, I'm looking right now, and I do have some excitement for John Ross. At the same time, he's got some of the Torrey Smith, Mike Wallace, Martavis Bryants, and, you can run fast, you can run deep. Well, his particular skill is running fast. We know that. But more so the 9-route guys. It's like just go, get open, high school yard football, whatever you want to call it. As we see with Martavis Bryant struggling to pick up a playbook from 1999 and John Gruden. Like, some of these guys just don't have more to offer. And we're asking John Ross to learn the route trait, which he's apparently been working on. We haven't got to see a lot of him because he missed for essential purposes the entire season last year. But the one thing is even as limited as his route tree might be, he can get the separation real quick off the line of scrimmage. And then if he gets behind them, forget about it because of the speed. So that's why you have to have excitement here. But at the same time, let's look at this team. You have a very good pass-catching backfield. Joe Mixon, Giovanni Bernard, the guy they drafted, and Mark Walton. All of them can pass catch. Tyler Eifert, healthy as of today. That's probably not going to be there by week 4, but he is as of today. And A.J. Green. So, again, this is another team where Andy Dalton, how much is he going to pass? Where is he really going to get into the mid-4,000s? Is he really going to touch 25, 30 touchdowns on the radar there? So I'll be excited, but I feel like he's more of that DFS type of play this year.
John Ross or Geronimo Allison?
Allison. I'll take the Packers wide receiver for every single, even to be in the 3rd over the 2nd one for the Bengals.
Would you take a quarterback before you took John Ross? Like, would you take Matt
Yes.
Ryan before John Ross?
Yeah, not my. I'm kind of on Matt Ryan, but I'm taking a quarterback before I take John Ross.
Okay, like Matt Breida or John Ross?
Ooh. I'm leading Breda. Everybody, Tevin Coleman and Kyle Shanahan. Oh, well, guess who's the new Tevin Coleman for Kyle Shanahan? It's Matt Breida.
All right, so I'm probably going to slot him in around like 150. He'll move up 40 spots in the ranks.
I'll give you one.
Okay.
I'll take John Brown over John Ross.
Yeah, I can see that.
He's out of the altitude, man. He's healthy on the west, he's out of the West Coast on the East Coast over by me. I'm looking for John Brown. He's got the 1,000-yard, the big season with the Cardinals before. He just needs to stay healthy.
All right, to Miami, Albert Wilson apparently is going to see snaps out of the backfield for the Dolphins. That's fun. They also signed Jeremy Langford. What do we do with this whole Dolphins offense? Like, they have too many receivers. Everyone likes Parker, everyone likes Stills. Then you have Amendola, then you have Albert Wilson, who basically do the same thing in terms of the production they put on the field, where they play, and where they line up in the offense. Like, do you prefer Amendola over Wilson? Do you put any credence into him getting backfield touches?
Hold on. Adam Gase, are you available for a few snaps out of the backfield? So there's everybody there. I have no vision, and that just kind of goes to everything that's back there. What the hell is Adam Gase doing? Just you tell me that. What is going on with this team? Like, he hates the Drake. He wants Frank Gore to get touches. We hear Balaj for a while. We got Albert Wilson back there. If you don't have the biggest red flag in front of you saying you don't want Kenyon Drake as your number 2, I don't know what to tell you. Obviously, the upside's there if he gets his head out of where, similar like Andy Reid last year with Kareem Hunt, and Drake can be a top 15 running back. But this is as fearful as as scary as you could get with a running back. When it comes to the wide receivers, I'll take a flyer at Amendola. But the problem here is, I know this sounds crazy what I'm about to say, but you're hoping Ryan Tannehill stays healthy. Because if Ryan Tannehill goes down, it's going to be Kenny Stills, and then maybe Devontae Parker if he ever puts it together. And then what's there left for Amendola with the backup quarterbacks that they have? And on top of that, how long is Amendola going to stay healthy?
Yeah. I really have no interest in either one of them. Just, I would prefer.
The Dolphins are going to be I said there's going to be 3 AFC East teams inside the top 6 picks next year.
That's going to be tough. Maybe the Jets are the second best team in this division at like 4-12.
They might be. Honestly, well, they could go 5-11, probably still end up in the top 6. And then, yeah, I could see all three of those teams. I told you, I'm hammering. I told when we did that the last episode. I'm doing the trifecta or whatever it's called when you have 3 bets on all 3 of them going under.
Yeah, the 3-team under parlay in terms of season win totals. Yeah. All right, Detroit backfield, LeGarrette Blount is the front runner for goal line touches for the Lions. Kerryon Johnson looks like he's just going to have the Amir Abdullah rule that was not fantasy beneficial to anyone over the course of the past 3 seasons. And Theo Riddick still kicking around, has not been cut, probably will end up on the team. Is Blount the guy to draft?
I really don't want much to do with this backfield at all. Sidebar, by the way, all you guys listening, Carry On My Wayward Johnson for your team name is not original. I love that song, but you're not the first person to come up with it. You're not going to be the last. It's going to be like on 1,000 teams this year, if not 10,000. But the thing I was Carry On Johnson is, yes, he's probably got the highest ceiling if he can break through and get kind of a Lamar Miller, Jerick McKinnon workload. But as you said, it's going to hurt him by having LeGarrette Blount take this goal line carry. So if Kerryon Johnson's not scoring from a couple yards out, could he end up having 900, 1,000 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns? And that's going to hurt him when LeGarrette Blount comes in and has 400 yards and 7 touchdowns on the year. So I don't want a lot to do with this backfield. This is another one I'm staying away from.
All right. Pete Carroll has come out and said that Doug Baldwin, just to put an amendment on him from last week's show, that he's probably going to be ready for week 1. He's now slipping to the end of the 3rd round by updated ADP over the last week. I still think that's a steal. Yes, I'm worried about the knee. It's not good that he has a knee injury, but he's a guy right now I still have ranked at 15th overall as part of my tier 2 of receiver, on the same level of T.Y. Hilton and A.J. Green and Devontae Adams and those guys. I think that there's going to be enough volume for Doug Baldwin, health permitting, that he's going to be a part of that tier. Like, you have to pull the trigger on him in the 3rd round, don't you?
Yeah, I would say that's the spot where I'm looking right now with my updated, just conservative. I actually pulled the complete game off the schedule, and that's the way I looked at it. It's like, all right, let's just worst case say he's ready for week 2. I'm looking at it, and it comes out to around 80 catches and 1,000 yards and about 5 or 6 touchdowns. So for me, he's 16, one spot deeper than you have him. He's sandwiched between Allen Robinson and Demaryius Thomas. I think that's where he still needs to be. Before that, Doug Baldwin is up there in front of Adam Thielen, up by T.Y. Hilton for me. I know that you're not the same on T.Y. Hilton, but he was on that fringe top 10. He's kind of slid back to the mid-teens now. So the issue is, like you said, is how long is he going to miss? But I like the fact that they're going to make sure he's 100%. Unfortunately, that means maybe he misses a game or 2. But at least they're not trying to force him back and saying, we want to see something before the season starts. Like Doug Baldwin, as long as he's healthy, he's going to be a wide receiver 1 in that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, he's inside my top 10. T.Y. Hilton, actually, I moved up after the luck news that he's not dead, so that helps. I moved up T.Y. Hilton as well. We'll talk about Hilton in a minute. I believe he's number 10 in my PPR rankings right now. Like the other 2 guys you mentioned, whether it be Allen Robinson or Demaryius Thomas, I much prefer Doug Baldwin to that. I actually bet Doug Baldwin to lead the league in receiving at 40-1, just on the outside chance that he's the one that ends up with 160 targets in this offense, because Seattle is constantly losing. And I do think that one of the main reasons that they're holding him out until week 1, I don't think that he's going to miss any games right off the hop unless he re-aggravates his knee, and maybe you do have to account for that. But one of the reasons to not have him as a part of this offense right now is they don't have other receivers. They have to try out people with Russell Wilson to see who he meshes with. We know he meshes with Doug Baldwin. Is it with Brandon Marshall, Tyler Lockett, Jaron Brown? Like we talked about all these guys before. But I do think that's a significant factor in keeping him away from the field.
Yeah, and that's obvious as well. But at the same time, you want to see him shake off the rust at least, just as a play. I'm going to go back to something when Mike Tomlin was here in Virginia and he was at his foundation for the Hampton Roads Youth Football. He was talking about Le'Veon Bell's situation. And he said, I don't need to see Le'Veon Bell practice. And I know this is why I'm comparing this, is because this is the same thing with Doug Baldwin. It's like, I don't need to see him practice. I know what he's going to be athletically. I know what he can do on the field. I know how he can play the game. The only thing I want to see him out there for, and why I do want him to practice, is because there's a certain thing with your body about getting up, that kind of regimen that you have to do every single day, how tired you get, the effect it has, how much you get worn down. And that's where you get into that whole cliche of the rust being shaken off. And that's why he said he wanted to see Le'Veon Bell out there. That's the same thing I'm going to say for Doug Baldwin. And that's kind of why I chopped off the game, is because even if he is out there by week 1, but with 0 preseason, I still think you do have to account for maybe he comes out a little off on that first week.
Well, I mean, it's not like he's just going to spend the entire time away from the field smoking weed in the back of Antonio
No,
Calloway's
but he's
car,
only so much
leaving it in there, getting the guy in trouble.
I know, but there's only, especially because he's with an injury. At least Le'Veon Bell's working out 100%. With Doug Baldwin, he's only so much you can do when you're nursing that kind of injury.
Josh McCown looks like he's going to end up starting week 1. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It could be Sam Darnold, or Sam Darnold-Cust, as we've begun to call him on the show, because him just not being good would be the most hilarious thing of all time now that Cust is all in after rating him as his worst quarterback coming out of the draft. As soon as he got drafted by the Jets, all of a sudden he became the best quarterback. Better than Kirk Cousins, I heard from Tim. All fake news. But what does this do to the offense? How long do you see McCown keeping this job if he starts week 1? And how does this affect with the offense? Like, do you have interest in Terrell Pryor? Quincy Enunwa still dealing with a thumb injury right now. Has a cast on his hand. Is it Robbie Anderson or bust for this receiving game?
I think that Jermaine Kearse is definitely in the mix as well. Look, I'll say it today. I don't care if this is on old takes exposed or cold takes exposed. Look, whatever that crap, I still think Sam Darnold starting week 1. I don't think that you make that kind of move in the draft. You're up there taking a quarterback this early and somebody with his pedigree, despite the turnovers, part of it being where he holds the ball, some of them being fumbling issues. I just don't see you not starting Sam Darnold week 1 for Josh stinking McCown, who should just be a player coach at this point. So I know what they're saying right now. I just don't buy it. I actually think there's a couple quarterbacks that could start week 1. And from the rookie class, I would put the over under at like 2.5 and say, like, I think that 2 are and take the under or somewhere around there. But I think Darnold's going to be one of them. And I don't know that Darnold is that much of an upgrade fantasy-wise for us for these players. So it really does come down to, I think it's Robbie Anderson, Jermaine Kearse, and that's kind of really all I want here. And Enunwa, I don't want the third wide receiver on this team in general. I know Enunwa will probably pop off at times if he's healthy. But he also looked at, Jordan Leggett, they're hoping to step up the tight end. Also, they like Chris Herndon too. So they're talking up both these guys. You still have the backfield of Crowell and Powell catching passes, and McGuire will be back at some point. So this is just another team. Why do you want the third option?
To Tampa Bay Times, Rick Stroud reports DeSean Jackson has increasingly been working from the slot during training camp, which means Chris Godwin will likely start on the outside opposite of Mike Evans. If you had to pick one to be on your fantasy team this year, which one would it be?
Chris Godwin. This is so annoying. This is another one. You talk about the Rex Burkhead. I hate that this is coming out because Chris Godwin was like my last round pick everywhere, because for 3 straight years now, we're going to have a Penn State wide receiver that's been overlooked with Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, and this year Deshaun Hamilton, who's going to take some time. Could actually make a little bit of noise out of the slot for Denver, but more of a next year type of situation. But Godwin's got what it takes. He has all the skills, and that's why they're using him outside. And this is the new thing in the NFL, this copycat league, just like most sports are, is taking aging vets and putting them at the slot because it's advantageous. You get weaker coverage for most of the season by who you're facing. There are a couple teams that have very good slot corners, but more often than not, you get a softer matchup. You also get that extra cushion and separation from the routes that you're running out of the slot. So this is what you do at the end of your career. You turn in there like Jordy Nelson before him and all the rest of them. I mean, honestly, whoever signs Dez Bryant should probably do the same with him. But you look at this. On the downside, it's fantasy-wise, is I think this could actually be an issue because you do have O.J. Howard still, Cameron Brate still, Mike Evans, Ronald Jones now involved in this backfield. This could be where they cancel each other out for fantasy purpose. So what I'm saying and why I'm drafting Godwin is because he has the chance to overcome and become the number 2 and just make DeSean Jackson irrelevant. On the bad side of things is I don't see that for DeSean Jackson, where I also see the opportunity of them canceling each other out. You don't want either one.
Godwin or Anthony Miller?
Anthony Miller.
Godwin or Cameron Meredith?
Anthony Miller.
Boy, that wasn't one of the options. It's Godwin.
I know. I know. I'll take Cameron Meredith.
Godwin or Jaron Brown?
Godwin.
Yeah, that makes about sense. Yeah, that's the range. Like that will put him in like the bottom.
Start calling him Jaron. Call him his right name.
I thought it was Jaron. He's fake. I mean, to me, he'll always be fake John Brown.
Well, then just call him that.
Yeah, we'll just call him that. So anyway, he's like middle tier 8 receiver for me then. Mid tier 8.
Are you making a note?
I'm making the note so I can go update I want to talk to you, then go update the rankings. So we get a bit of a chat about this.
I thought I was on break there when I drank my water.
Indianapolis. Frank Reich says T.Y. Hilton and Ryan Grant have really separated themselves in training camp. Although Peter King reports his insider says Cain has been the big star of training camp. Is this all fake news? Just draft T.Y. Hilton and don't worry about the other losers?
No, if you can take either one of them, I actually just did a draft today. It was IDP league with Jamie Eisenberg, and I took both Ryan Grant and Deion Cain, hoping I get whichever one becomes the number 2, because the number 2 on this offense, which was if anybody follows me, they know I've been on the Deion Cain train since the draft, and Deion Cain train. Anyway, all that being said is I think that Deion Cain has the skill set to be the number 2, but also he's still a rookie, so. The fact that Ryan Grant looks good so far and he's contending with Deion Cain, and Cain started hot and now he's starting to fall back. It's a rookie. That doesn't really surprise me. I'm rooting for Ryan Grant too after the freaking Ravens screwed him over. So it'd be nice to see that work out with him. But that's why I took both of them. I think in a standard 12-team, 16-round draft, maybe you could do the same. Take them like rounds 13 and 15 and try to get whichever one if you're drafting as of today. I still lean Cain, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's Grant. But all that being said, this is my point, is you want the number 2 wide receiver. Like if we told you today and we knew definitively the number 2 wide receiver was going to be blank, you would draft blank in every single draft, probably in around 9 and 10.
Okay, Colts owner Jim Irsay says he could see Marlon Mack approaching 1,500 yards. Now, it didn't say like this season, for his career, anything like that. And listen, someone may have, one of Jim Irsay's friends may have left like pills in the back of his car or something like that. And I don't know where this information
wasn't his car.
It wasn't his car. But like, I'm so confused with this Colts backfield that I think I'm just going to take Jordan Wilkins towards the end of drafts. And if I miss out on Marlon Mack, screw it, I missed out.
I'm missing out on all of them because they're all going over the price that I want to pay because it's a true committee. I told you this before. I'm going to say the same thing. Is Marlon Mack has great ability, but he tries to do too much with every single play. Nyheim Hines is the best pass catcher. Jordan Wilkins is the best all-around running back. This is just this is definition of committee. Don't get involved with this. And then Robert Turbin's suspended as of now, but if they keep him on the team, he's going to be back in just a few short weeks and probably force his way into some goal line carries. So just stay away from it. Mack is still going in the 6th, 7th, 8th round, depending on what draft you're in, way too high. Nyheim Hines in a PPR is sneaking into that 9th round range, way too high. Jordan Wilkins, because everybody's like, oh, we'll take the cheapest one, the good all-around running back. And now because of that, his price is starting to get driven up into like the 10th, 11th round. Again, still too high. I'm just staying away.
I'd take him in the 11th round. I think it's fine.
I think there's better options in the 11th round with less competition. I'd rather take somebody like at that point, I'd rather take Bilal Powell.
Yeah, I don't even think you need to take Bilal Powell there. I think he's going even later.
You don't. You can keep waiting.
I just like like you said, it's very much the probability is that it will be a committee. But if one of them can win it, there is going to be substantial upside, I think, in that backfield. Someone can play even like 60% of the snaps on a consistent basis. And if that is Wilkins, like paying an 11th round price isn't the end of the world.
No, but I'm looking right now. So, like, I would take Chris Carson in that range ahead of him just in case the Seahawks are bullheaded about that situation. I would take Blount, who we were talking about before, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones off suspension, Corey Clement. There's a lot of people I'm going to take before I get to him.
Well, let's talk about Corey Clement then, because it came out that Darren Sproles is going to have a real role in this offense. Probably because when I met Darren Sproles on Super Bowl Radio Row this year, he refused to shake Tim Andercutt's hand. Very smart move for the longevity of his career. So he's going to be in the mix. Ajayi is still being drafted, not super highly, but like inside, he's still going inside the top 50, isn't he?
Yeah, he's still being treated as a top almost 15 running back.
And then you have Corey Clement to put into this mix. I just don't see how any of them can do anything.
And what do we got to go back to here? Peterson for his entire career. I gave you those numbers. We did it about a month or two ago, and they weren't mine. They're from Scott Barrett and Graham Barfield, who came out and tweeted. Oh, no, it was Mike Taglieri and Barfield. And they both tweeted out separate stats on similar stats. One was the percentage of times that somebody carried the ball or touched the. Okay, let me fix that. So the percentage of 60% or more was 3 games. Also, 60 snaps or more. It just happened to be 60 for both, and that's what was messing me up. 60 snaps or more was also 3 times. All 3 of those times for both of those were Darren Sproles. So the point being is all these other running backs mixed in, and I don't think Darren Sproles is going to lead this backfield. But Peterson does not use a bell cow running back. For all these people drafting Jay Ajayi and people thinking that Corey Clement's going to have this great backup option, if Darren Sproles is healthy, I know he's aged. I know he's at the end of his career. I know he's coming off an injury. But to put any faith and touches in this backfield, I think is a giant mistake.
Aaron Jones is not only suspended for the first part of the season, he's also dealing with a hamstring injury, and it says that he's struggling in terms of pass protection to get caught up. So Where's Jamal Williams going in drafts, like, as of today?
I still feel, at least the last couple of drafts I've been going, is like the 5th, 6th round.
5th, 6th round? So I think a 6th round on Jamal Williams is perfectly fine for that gamble that you might end up with the Packers starting running back.
And I'm with you on that. You know my feelings on Jamal Williams. I was extremember high on him last year, and I still am. And the biggest part about it is because he's a great all-around running back. And at times last year, you look at the way they played. Well, also, remember who the quarterback – the thing is everybody just forgets Aaron Jones played with Aaron Rodgers for a good percentage of his games last year. Jamal Williams for the entire time was playing with Brett Hundley. Let's just be real about the quarterback and what the offense you're playing with. But the biggest factor, and the reason I always lean towards Jamal Williams, and even last year and even going to this season, was because Jamal Williams is a great pass blocker. Aaron Jones is not just poor, he's terrible, and he's still trying to work out it, and apparently still hasn't gotten anywhere with it. That's important if you're playing alongside Aaron Rodgers. So I know you can get all the compliments in the world about how explosive Aaron Jones is, but I like Jamal Williams, and I'm still going to keep taking him in the 5th or 6th round because if Jamal Williams gets, just go back to the 60 number from the Eagles, but if he gets that 60% number, even sharing the rest of the 40% with Aaron Jones and Ty Montgomery, that's going to probably have RB2 value.
Martavis Bryant is struggling to pick up John Gruden's playbook. No word on yet whether he'll be suspended or not, who knows. But, like, is he draftable? Like, I still want him more than Jordy Nelson because I think Jordy Nelson is washed, but that doesn't mean I'm necessarily just going to go draft Martavis Bryant.
Oh, didn't you see the clip from yesterday of Jordy Nelson going down the sideline and making that adjustment and back shoulder catch? And woo, Jordy Nelson. You also notice there was no separation on that play with Darius Slay. But in any way, I'm with you. I'm still not sold on Jordy Nelson. My bold prediction, which I told you a couple weeks ago, was that Martavis Bryant was going to outscore him. But I feel like I might want to change it after hearing that today. They can't pick up the playbook. The playbook for John Gruden can't be that hard. I mean, like, he didn't change his playbook sitting in the booth all these years. He's talking about bringing the offense back to the early 2000s. It wasn't that complicated. So this really goes down to what I was talking about before with John Ross and all these other type of wide receivers is if all you can do is run downfield and make big plays, you have value, but that's going to be, it's the Torrey Smith. Try and pick the 6 good weeks. When are they going to be? So if you're in a best ball, absolutely. I've drafted Martavis Bryant in plenty of best ball teams. If you're DFS, absolutely. Seasonal, that's going to be tough to get me to buy it.
Yeah, I think it's sort of akin to the Jay Ajayi problem where Ajayi's going to have good games, but you just never know when they're going to count.
Right.
All right. Depth charts. Do they mean anything? Because they've been released so far. So there's some notable things from them. Do you believe in these depth charts whatsoever right off the hop? Or are they fake news?
100% fake news. Okay, I'll give you 2 things real quick. Go back to last year this time, look at the depth charts and look at the news we were talking about last year and tell me if you think depth charts mean anything. Number 2, the perfect example, somebody tweeted out the Vikings depth chart with Matt Asiata as the number 1 running back who's not on the team.
That's very sneaky.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's a ploy.
All right, well, here are 4 depth chart things that I found interesting, and I don't know if they're real, whether they're fake, and we'll just see. One is Devontae Booker was listed over Royce Freeman. Now, these depth charts tend to favor veteran players over rookies, right?
Always. I mean, you could go down the list, go through everybody's depth chart right now. There is barely any rookies atop the depth chart. I don't know that the Giants released theirs yet. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants threw one out with the Jonathan Stewart at the top of the depth chart.
Oh, wow. Okay, Alfred Blue is listed over Donta Foreman right now as the number 2 in Houston. And one of the reasons I don't like Lamar Miller all that much, or if you draft him, you should probably sell him after a few weeks, is I'm not unconvinced that he doesn't just split with Alfred Blue to begin with. And I think this is going to end up being Foreman's job by like week 8 when he's healthy. Yeah, and I was one of those people that called for it last year, saying that Deontay Foreman was going to force a 50-50 as a rookie. Obviously, the injuries changed all that, and he looked really good before he got hurt. But this is one I'm taking a little credence in, only because Deontay Foreman might not be ready for week 1. This team has already come out and said he might start the season on the pup. So this is more of the fact that if you're taking a late-round flyer, throw one on Alfred Blue, because maybe you get a couple decent games out of him to start the season in deeper leagues. I'm not talking about you want to start Alfred Blue, but also, hey, if you have Alfred Blue on your team and Lamar Miller breaks his ankle in week 3 of the preseason, now all of a sudden you have a starter in your hand. Tyrell the Gazelle Williams is ahead of the Chargers depth chart than Mike Williams. If you had to draft one of them, which one would it be?
Mike Williams. I have Mike Williams higher. I think Mike Williams is going to be a top 40 wide receiver this year. I think he's going to be the second best red zone option. I think he can push Keenan Allen for the lead in team touchdowns receiving wise. He is that good. People were arguing he was better than Corey Davis last year. I wasn't one of those, but also look at where he went in the draft. He's a great receiver that people just forgot about and just wrote off because of his back issues. That's why he's behind Tyrell Williams as of today. If Tyrell Williams is ahead of him for the first couple weeks, it also wouldn't surprise me. But Mike Williams, at some point this season, I say sooner than later, is going to be the number 2. The talent is just too much. The only thing stopping him is health.
Dolphins second round tight end Mike Gesicki is number 5 on the Dolphins tight end depth chart.
Name the 4 in front of him. I'll dare anybody to do that. You can't.
Sal Fasano, whatever that guy's.
I think AJ Derby is one of them. After that, I don't even know off the top of my head. Gesicki's going to be the top tight end there. There's no question about it. But here's the thing: you don't want to draft him. I know a lot of people are like, "Whoa, there's an opportunity here. Look at what Evan Ingram did last year." Evan Ingram had no wide receivers next to him. There was one point, you and I talked about this. There was one point where he was playing, this Shepard wasn't even there. It was Roger Lewis, Khalif Raymond, and Travis Rudolph, and Evan Ingram. He was their number 1 wide receiver. Gesicki is not going to be the number 1 wide receiver for the Dolphins.
All right, let's rapid fire through some injuries. Antonio Brown and his quad injury is expected back to practice early next week. Do you worry at all about Antonio Brown? Because I do not.
No. If you're not taking Antonio Brown at the top of your draft, at least in the first 5 picks, you're crazy.
Oh, you got to give your head a shake?
Yeah, why?
If you're not taking him, you got to give your head a shake if you're not taking Antonio Brown.
Near
the top of your drafts, brother.
Exactly.
Alan Hearns' groin injury has been limited at training camp. There's nothing new for Alan Hearns. The guy is always banged up. I had him as my top Dallas receiver in a completely unknown situation. Should I be changing that mentality right now and go with Cole Beasley or Michael Gallup or Terrence Williams or whoever?
Well, if you're the Cowboys, they keep trying to make Terrence Williams a thing. This is the Gallup. Get on the train before it's too late. I still think it takes a few weeks for him to really catch on. But this happening, the more things keep happening with the Cowboys receivers, that it's just opening the door even wider and wider for Gallup.
Zach Ertz is back at practice after an undisclosed injury kept him out a few games. Dallas Goedert is there as well. Obviously, Ertz is going to be fine for the season unless we hear other news, and he's ranked inside the top 3 at tight end for me. Does Goddard have like Trey Burton type upside in this role as tight end 2 on the Eagles? Like, remember last year whenever Zach Ertz was out, it'd be like, oh, Trey Burton, $2,600 on DraftKings, or hey, he's 99% unowned on my waiver wire. Just pick him up and play him?
Yeah, pretty much. But here's the problem is I don't know why people are doing this, but don't draft him. I've seen people drafting Goddard in like the 14th. So what, you're going to hold this tight end on your bench for the entire season just waiting for the game or two that Zach Ertz is going to miss? Don't be that stupid. He's DFS. If you miss out on him in the middle of the season off the waiver wire, it's not going to kill you for 1 week.
Taylor Gabriel is going to sit out Thursday's Chicago Bears preseason game with a foot injury. Obviously, this is good news for Anthony Miller, right?
Yeah, well, Anthony Miller didn't need any more good news. He was going to be the number 2 behind Allen Robinson anyway, in my opinion. The guy's just, I said this during the draft, his footwork is mesmerizing. He's just that hard to realize. Defenders have a real tough time figuring out where he's going off that snap.
Colts left tackle Anthony Costanzo will likely miss a few weeks after aggravating a hamstring injury late last week at Friday practice. Do you think this has any impact for Andrew Luck and his ability to stay upright?
Yeah, if Costanzo misses significant time, probably. I mean, the one thing is the Colts offensive line has been the biggest problem. It's probably why Andrew Luck got hurt in the first place. Actually, it is why he got hurt in the first place.
Bengals plays offensive guard Rod Taylor with a knee injury on injured reserve. One of the things that was talked about in the offseason was that Cincinnati improved their offensive line. It was such a disaster. Very bad last season. Hurt Joe Mixon at all?
Not at this point. I don't think that Taylor was the biggest factor they were looking at. It's more for that with who they drafted with Bryant, with Price, and the free agent guy that I can't remember right now that they brought in.
Cardinals center Shipley has been diagnosed with a torn right ACL and will miss the 2018 season. This is bad news for a bad offensive line to begin with. Although, while it might hurt David Johnson's rushing stats, it might help David Johnson's receiving stats too. That's one great thing about David Johnson. You can spin injuries, good or bad, any way for him.
Pretty much, and that's we could do the same thing with the wide receivers. Oh, they don't really have a number 2. Well, that's good for him. Whereas the battle, now they soften up the defense. He's got more running lanes. Just David Johnson, top 4 pick. I'm not worried about what's going on with the rest of that team.
I was having this discussion a little bit, and I've been thinking about doing it. I have David Johnson number 3 in my rankings. I have Le'Veon Bell number 2. Chances? What would you say, if you had to set the line on those? Who would be favored to score more fantasy points, do you think? Obviously, I think it's Bell, but I don't think it's by that much. I'm starting to come around to David Johnson a little bit.
No, so if this was are you talking Vegas-wise?
Yeah.
This would be one of the ones, I would say this is like a plus 150, minus 110 type of situation.
Other way, minus 150, plus 110.
No, I said plus 150. Like I said,
but it wouldn't be plus 1. If it was minus 110, it'd be minus 110.
No, I was thinking have you ever seen UFC where they don't add up properly? That's what I was talking
about.
Well,
no, because they're taking vig, but it always leans the other way. The minus is always the big. The plus is always shorter.
All right. Okay. Well, all right. Well, then there you go.
All right. Next one.
This is why you go to Unity for gambling and not me.
Yeah. 2 things with the Panthers here. So Darrell Williams suffered a dislocated kneecap a while back. He's going to be done, basically. That's at least what it looks like. And they also lost Andrew Norwell in free agency. And then, if I'm pronouncing this correctly, Amini Silatulo has a torn meniscus in his left knee. Friend of the show, Dr. Cillian Parekh, says it's a 4 to 6 week injury. What does this do to the Panthers' offensive line? They got no one left.
You start to get legitimately concerned. You can't have an offensive line. Let's just say, given the Bengals' offensive line from last year. And it is Cam Newton, it is Christian McCaffrey, and all the rest of their team, the talent that they have. But at the same time, we've seen what offensive line can do to the best talents in the world. Let's go back to Andrew Luck. As much as great as Andrew Luck was, there were still issues with that team because of that. So I think you have to consider moving down Cam Newton just a little bit and just a little bit to Christian McCaffrey, especially on the rushing side of it, not the pass catching. But if Christian McCaffrey at his size, despite his 6 pounds of muscle he added on, but you're talking about, you were hoping 500-600 rushing yards for him. Maybe you got to take that back a little bit.
Hey, don't scoff at 6 pounds of muscle. 6 pounds of muscle is hard to put on. It is.
I'm not saying it's not, but it's not like the guy can all of a sudden handle 25 carries a game.
No, and that was never going to happen anyway. I think this impacts C.J. Anderson more than it impacts Christian McCaffrey, to be perfectly honest.
Him as well, yeah, absolutely.
Because, he's not catching the ball, and now he's running behind like me and you out there trying to block. Maybe they'll have ghost offensive linemen, like when you used to have ghost runners, when you didn't have enough baseball players for backyard baseball.
Maybe can we do that in the NFL? Can we just chop it down to 4 offensive linemen is all you need? And then just, we can't get teams to even get 5 capable ones.
Maybe so. Hey, we'll just cut out half the number of teams because there's not enough quarterbacks that are capable to start in the NFL.
No, that's what I was saying. But this is why the XFL is going to fail. We can't even get offensive linemen in the real NFL. What's going to be left for the XFL offensive line-wise?
Hey, if the XFL can work in conjunction with the NFL and work as sort of like a minor league system, I think it's going to be a tremendous success.
They can. I'm with you, but again, what I'm going to is if you're talking about minor league offensive linemen, we can't even get quality. We're going 2-3 deep at some positions, like guards and tackles is what I mean. And some NFL teams. Talk about the dredge of talent and garbage that's out there right now. What is the XFL going to have?
They're going to have cool balls if they keep the same balls from last time. They have the gel in them that are really easy to grip. For people with little hands like myself, it was very good.
Alex Smith would be a god.
Yeah, just him and Tommy Maddox. Bring back Tommy Maddox. Put Alex Smith in the XFL. We'll all be good to go.
Yeah, why not?
Jake Ciely. You have not announced where you're going to pop up yet. When can we expect an announcement from you?
They can expect it Monday. So that's Monday. What date is that? In case you're watching this, the 13th. So if you haven't heard or watched this, and I'll have it already announced. All
right, and I might be crossing paths with you in New York this weekend.
So.
I'm going to be there at Pat Mayo Experience live Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 5 to 7 Eastern time on Thursday and Friday. Not quite sure yet on Saturday. I think it's 5 to 7 as well. Paul, 5 to 7? Saturday? That's when we're live, so you can check it out. And you can watch it all on demand, too. I'm covering the Fantasy Baseball World DraftKings Championships. Plus, I'll be talking some golf. I'll be talking some football. But you'll be there for the Flex League draft. Can you tell everyone about the Flex League and one of its former historic champions, Pat Mayo?
Yeah, with no belt. Or wait, did you get a belt? Yeah, I sent it to you. I mailed it to you.
I did get a belt. I believe it was left at the fantasy offices, unfortunately.
So
they repossessed my belt when I left.
They repossessed anything that they could try and claim was theirs. Fantasy League experts, man, this is what we've been working on. This is now the 6th year with the help of Jamie Eisenberg and David Gonos to get it rolling out there. But this is what's supposed to be the tout wars of football. It's just trying to also really get everybody together. We don't get to see each other throughout the year. We talk on Twitter all the time and never get to hang out in person. That's half of what this is all about. And then, of course, the bragging rights, the belt, and a little bit of cash on the side. But it's just a great time to get together. So, yeah, you're up there. I'll be up there on Friday. Hopefully, like you said, we can cross paths.
Yeah, and I want to give a special shout out to David Gonos and Nando DeFino, my former colleagues from Fantasy, now over at The Athletic, heading up their brand new fantasy football department. So congratulations to those guys. Big fans, both of them. Anyway, Jake Ciely, follow him on Twitter, @AllinKid, and check the link, right? I guess there is no link right now.
No, there's not. There will be one, though.
You just post a screenshot on Twitter and just check that link.
I could just put it on Instagram so I can get Insta followers.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe I'll run an Instagram giveaway. That's the move if you want to get Instagram followers. Tell them you give them $20 as a part of a draw. You get
or you could do the stupid Madden thing that everybody was doing yesterday. They asked me to give away too, and people are still answering the question when the tweet says, "Let me know by 9 p.m. when the giveaway ends," and people are still tweeting me answers.
The problem I've seen with that, and there's a giveaway for this show, your biggest bust, at least what you see, inside the top 50 picks in terms of ADP this season. Give it a like, add your DK handle, boom. In the bottom, you're in the draw for a $20 DraftKings Bucks giveaway that you can use for whatever you want to use it on DraftKings. Plus, if you subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever, leave a review on there with your DraftKings name as well, preferably a 5-star review, you're in the draw for $20 DK as well. The problem with all of this is when people don't win, they get really upset. It's a draw. There's 300 people entering, one person wins. I've now learned this just kind of pisses people off.
I said the exact same thing. It was going to happen. I'm with you. I had about 400 replies yesterday, and there was 2 winners, and people get ticked off. I watched as soon as I announced it. I'm like, watch, I'm going to lose a good 10 followers, and then I think it was 8.
Listen, I like giving the stuff away, so I really don't care who gets mad. And the people who win, I'm sure they're happy. So enter those draws, the iTunes one, the one and below on DK Live and YouTube. Boom, you're in the draw for everything. Plus, sub to the podcast, sub to the video channel, give the episode a like, and go back and watch all of the other shows on demand whenever you want as a part of the Pat Mayo Experience Draft Kit. All my rankings up on DKPlaybook.com. I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!